Leeds United play against Salford in the Carabao Cup tonight, and I think it could be a very interesting clash. It's not one that's going to see a lot of first-team players involved. There are one or two. I've got a predicted lineup next to me right now. But what really happens in the match and the season ahead is going to come down to performances tonight. So, quick dive into the predicted lineup that I have. There we go. I think we're going to start with Caldalo in that. That one seems a little bit of a no-brainer to me. Caldalo is a good goalkeeper who hasn't seen much action because we've kept Ilan Meslier. I don't think we expected to keep Ilan Meslier when we signed him. I think that was a sort of accident that we stumbled into that worked out for the better, because now we have two good goalkeepers, although it could see Christopher Clausen leave. Across the back line, weirdly, I've gone for Cody Drameh at right back. Despite a fairly dreadful performance at left back this weekend against Ipswich, it has worked. Thank you, Brendan. A fairly dreadful performance this weekend against Ipswich. That was over here. Now, Drameh is known as a right back. He's got a little bit of flexibility. He can fluidly go from flank to flank, except evidently not. And I think his Leeds career could fully depend on how he does against Ipswich. 12 months left on his deal. If he doesn't perform against Salford, if he doesn't perform tonight against Salford, it's going to be really, really hard to justify keeping him around. I think Salford should be a fairly easy task for Leeds, and that's why I think we'll send out the second string 11. Centre back, Charlie Cresswell, of course, probably needs minutes. He's been pushed out by Joe Rodon. I think he's going to be relatively third choice centre back for the club this season. He's a very, very impressive player who, again, I hate to say it, but he's that sort of passion guy, that hardened championship player that just throws himself into situations. And he's going to be a very, very good player at Leeds United. It's just about getting those minutes in his legs, and whilst Rodon is fit, I think the Cup is the best way to do that. Pascal Struijk at left centre-back probably needs to happen because we don't have too much depth. If we had Liam Cooper, then I feel like it would be whoever wasn't the in the league starting player from Struijk and Cooper, but we don't have Liam Cooper back yet, so it's going to have to be Pascal Struijk. Carabao Cup should be about saving various players' legs and trying out new players, but we don't have that many centre-backs at the moment. If we're feeling incredibly bold, it could be a Diego Montero kind of thing, but he has never played for Leeds United's senior team, so I can't see that happening. Leo Kjelder at left-back also sort of just makes sense, considering that he's the only sort of even a little bit of a left-back that is fit at the moment. The only other player that can play there that isn't Cody Drameh, who we saw couldn't play there very well, is Pascal Struijk, who again is busy at centre-back, or Jamie Shackleton, who played there for a little bit against Ipswich, but then we would need another midfielder, and frankly, we don't have the squad depth to do that at the minute. So I will pop those back. As I mentioned, Jamie Shackleton plays here. He will be the sort of energetic one of the two in midfield. He'll be the one that does a hell of a lot of running. He'll be the box-to-box player between the two, with the other being Darko JB. Darko JB did not impress too much against Shrewsbury. He had a very, very bad match where he just lost control of the midfield. We lost the ball a lot, and I think that's where a lot of our problems came in. A lot of this, I say, having not seen too much of the match, but it's reports from various people, including the Square Ball, Phil Hay, Graham Smith. JB didn't have a very good match. Like Drameh, this is one where he can sort of redeem himself and push himself into contention for the future. He's a player that has a fairly long contract at Leeds. We'll look at developing for the extended future, but sort of needs to prove that he's got that basic foundation first. Out on the wings, we see Crescencio Somerville. He's not one of our starting wingers at the minute, which is completely understandable because Sinistero, Willie Nonto, both very, very, very good footballers, so it's really hard to sort of displace them. He is still incredible. He's probably our third choice winger for if any of those are injured or need a rest. However, in terms of being injured or needing a rest, Willie Nonto doesn't need a rest. Little guy went on strike for a while, didn't he? So I feel like he sort of has to play today, either to get match fitness up or just because he sort of owes us one. I can see him doing really well against Salford too. He seems to be someone that performs quite well in the Cups because remember what he did against Cardiff, that Di Canio-esque finish. Hopefully he can keep that up. The front two, I think, is interesting because they could take on a Pirro-Rutter dynamic without having quite the same proven quality. Both Joe Gelhardt and Sam Greenwood have been increasingly training to play in midfield or as a number 10, with Greenwood playing for extended periods under Jesse Marsch, basically here. Not as a number 10, but as a sort of box-to-box number 8 kind of guy. It's not a position that I like to see him in, but that's not a position he's going to be in this system. He's going to be with Gelhardt, with one of the two at all times dropping in to help out, and the other sort of peeling off the centre-back, pushing forward. It's interesting to see what we'll do tonight, because I think there's a lot of work that can be done in order to achieve decent enough results. We don't need to do too much hard work, I say again, because it is Salford and they shouldn't be too difficult to beat. But if it comes to it, we've always got a lot of talent on the bench. I have no doubt that Pirro, Rutter, Sinisterra will all be on the bench and ready to bring on support in case we have any issues. In terms of defensively on the bench, there's not going to be too much that we can offer. We'll have, of course, Joe Rodon, because he's not injured that I know of. If he is injured, that could be a pretty big problem, and I could look incredibly daft. But let's hope he isn't. Or something I saw a minute ago that looked at the entire squad and who was available. I will have a quick look. Yeah, there's a player that I think could make a real difference if he does come on, because he's proven himself at sort of League One level and could continue to do so against these opponents, and I think we'll push on and do really well in the Championship, but we'll find out. Sorry, bit of a hiccup. And that is Lewis Bate. Lewis Bate in League One was a very, very, very strong performer. He proved himself as someone that can not only win a ball, but he was really good at making opportunities for the rest of the players around him and even finishing chances. I think if he were to play tonight, we would also have an incredible chance of winning. Other players that might be worth keeping an eye out for. I think Chris Moore at centre-back is someone that is very, very good and has a lot of potential to grow and could do with minutes coming up. Ampadu off the bench is another one that could be very good. Aside from that, we've still got a relatively thin squad. Maybe Christopher Clarkson starts in net instead of Carl Darlow, but you can't be sure. It's a cup match. Things happen. Ultimately, what do I think is going to happen in the match against Salford? I think we are probably going to win it. I think after the match against Shrewsbury, Daniel Farke isn't going to want to take any more risks and potentially lose matches because of stupid mistakes. I think we're going to come out swinging. I think we're going to score 1 or 2 goals early, maybe try and sit on it to not waste energy. Again, it's not a deep squad. We could do without the injuries. Might be tricky to hold on to, but at least this one is one that I think we can watch, because I believe the match is televised. And yeah, you don't think Dan James will feature at all? As far as I know, Dan James is still injured. Dan James falls into that category of Somerville, in which I don't think he's a starting winger for us if everyone's fit. I think he's someone that comes off the bench towards the end when they've already got exhausted defenders and really starts to sort of attack incredibly hard and fast. But I can't remember what his injury was. But it was fairly short term, as far as I know. That's why he's not been in the squad recently. He had an injury in his adductor, which I believe is probably not worth risking for a match against Salford. He might be on the bench. I don't think he'll start, because that would be an incredible risk to take just a few days after he was entirely kept out of the squad. That might be my sort of Bielsa-esque mind of wait until someone is completely fit to play them, but I think it would be a bad idea to do.